What's up everybody? Welcome back to another Davinci Resolve tutorial. Today we're going to be going over how to do this super sick animation effect to this Lamborghini emblem. You can do this with pretty much any car emblem, but you could do it with pretty much anything, but I'm going to go over specifically how to do it with this clip here. I will make this clip available to you. That way you can literally follow along step by step with me. This is a little bit of a lengthy and complicated feature. However, I promise it will be easy to follow along. Just go with me, go with the flow, go step by step and follow along with everything I do and you will be able to pull this effect off. So without further ado, let's hop into Davinci. All right, now that we're in Davinci Resolve, let's go ahead and take a look at this effect one more time and we'll break it down. So we start by being zoomed in, we pull out, get a good look at the car, pull back in, then the logo comes off the car, flips around, smashes back down, and we come back out. So how did we get there? Well, first let's start with the clip. I'm going to make this clip available for you. That way you can follow along step by step with me. However, you can absolutely use your own clip. It is just best to use one, that has a very clear view of the logo. I do recommend starting with a car that has a pretty easy logo to trace, something like Lamborghini, BMW, even Ford. A lot of those that just have, a solid logo, those are much easier to do. If you do something a little bit more complicated like Toyota with all the holes inside the logo, it can be a little bit more tricky. So pick your clip. Now I have this clip already stabilized and speed ramped. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video because I already have a video on specifically stabilizing and speed ramping. And I'll have that linked and you can go ahead and watch that. It is a little bit of a lengthy process. So this is already going to be a long video with how complicated this effect is. In the spirit of not making this video super long, go ahead and watch that one if you have not already stabilized your footage. I guess for this effect, it's not necessary, but I do recommend it. That being said, I'll show you what speed ramp I used here in case you're following along. So this is what my time stretcher looks like for my speed ramp on this clip. So we start here, we ramp up and out, then it comes back around to pull back in, slows back down. Now we have, this is where our flip is going to happen. And that is because, this is where it is in slow motion. So we're gonna have a slow clip here and then boom, here it kicks right back up. This right here, this is the exact frame that our logo is going to smash back down onto the car. And actually to make our lives a little bit easier, I'm going to put a marker there and I will head back into the Fusion tab and I'll put another marker here where our slow motion starts. So we know that from here to here, this is where we want our effect to happen. So for this clip here, that is the only effect you want. You want this clip to be completely untouched. Now what we're going to do is copy this clip. So you can either, Control C, Control V, you can right click copy, or if you hold Alt and drag, Davinci will automatically copy. We're gonna copy this clip and I'm going to trim it down exactly to the size of where we want this effect to happen. Next, we need to get rid of this logo. We need a clip of where this logo doesn't exist, and I will show you that now. We need, when our logo pops off the car, there not to be a logo on the car, because obviously if the logo stays on the car, when our logo pops up, it's gonna be very obvious. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to come up to this clip that we put above our main clip, create a compound clip, and now we're gonna come into the Fusion tab. We're gonna hold Shift, press spacebar, and type in Patch Replacer. Pop that guy in here. Now this, you're going to have to play around with a little bit in order to get it to look right. I got pretty close here, first try. It's also because I've done this effect before on this clip. But basically what we're looking to do is basically copy this part of the frame over to this part of the frame in order to block the logo. You see if I go too low, it starts to pick up this edge right here, and it does not cover our logo the whole time. And I'm also trying pretty hard to make it not look so apparent that it's copied. It's not going to matter much because there's going to be a huge effect above it, but trying to make sure that these reflections don't look too bad here. But this is going to do it for me. So as soon as we go to this effect happening, our logo is gone. And as soon as it slams back down, our logo has come back. So now what is next? Well, we need to animate our, that is going to be this clip here. We need to animate our logo and actually have it come off the car. So again, we're going to copy this clip. We're going to trim it down to this size. And we are going to need to mask out our logo here. We are going to come over to the color tab here. And now this is Davinci Studio 12. This works in all versions, but they did move a few things around. Mainly the vertical video now shows up here in the corner. We need to mask out our logo. So we're gonna come over here to the polygon tool and select our polygon. We're gonna zoom in, and now we're going to just take our time selecting our logo. Now you're going to want to do this part as carefully as possible. So I will probably speed this footage up, but you're gonna want to get a really good selection here. So now that I have my, oopsies. Now that I have this mostly selected, I'm going to spend some time really getting these curves right to match up with my logo. When getting your nodes to line up, if you hold down Control, you can move just one edge of the curve at a time. And that is super helpful. Again, you're gonna really wanna take your time here and get your logo to line up as well as possible, because this is going to really sell the effect. It's very important that you take your time here and get this traced as best as possible. This is really going to sell the effect. Now that we have our logo traced, we need to track this mask. Because if we don't, when the clip moves, our logo is going to not appear in the mask properly. So we're going to come over to this tracking tab. And we're going to track back and forth. Now this is where it helps to do this on a slow motion clip already. It will be much easier to make sure you get this track done by Davinci rather than having to make any adjustments. If your clip is not tracked perfectly, and you can scrub through to see if every frame is tracked properly. If a frame isn't, you can switch to this frame tab here and you can adjust these points to make sure that it stays tracked properly. Lucky for us, we have a really good track here from Davinci. I'm going to come back to clip. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to soften the inside edge. Now, if I go really far, you can see how far the mask comes, but I'm going to soften the inside edge of this mask, probably 0.25, just a little bit to make it not a straight up hard edge on my logo. That will make everything a little bit smoother. I'm going to right click here in the node tree and I'm going to add an alpha output, and we will connect our alpha output. Now it doesn't look like something happened here, but that is because we have both of these clips below it. If I were to close them off, you can see that by having our alpha output selected, we have just our Lamborghini logo popping up for us. Now we are going to create a new compound clip with that clip, and we are going to head into Fusion. Now this is where the magic is about to start. We're going to make sure media in 1 is selected, hold space, press shift, hold shift, press space, and search for a transform. All right, so now that we have transform connected, we're ready to start making our logo grow. Now this can be a little bit tricky at first, since you can't see the car as you're doing this. But all you need to remember is that frame 1 is the beginning of this clip, at the beginning of the car slowing down, and frame 36, the end of this clip, is when we want this thing smashing back on the car. So with that being said, and transform selected, we're going to come over here to size, and we're going to keyframe our normal size at both frame 0, and our final frame. That means that no matter what we do here in the middle, when the clip starts, our logo will line up with where it should be on the car, and when it ends, our logo will be where it should line up on the car. Now, this is about to get very complicated, so I would like to reiterate that I am going slow on purpose, and I'm over-explaining a lot of topics to hopefully help you understand what's going on with the effect. That way, if you want to make a tweak to the effect, you can absolutely do so. So let's go ahead and get started with our next effect. Oh, and if your spline editor is not visible quite yet, you may have your screen looking like this right now. All you want to do is come over here and click spline. And I'm actually going to move this to the center. I should have done that earlier. Okay, so now we need to add our grow effect. So I'm going to want this to grow slowly and then slam back onto the car fast. So to do so, I'm going to make a keyframe right here at frame 10. And now you may have different frames if you didn't do the exact same speed ramp I did, but for reference, mine was 36 frames long. So at frame 10 here, I'm going to keyframe the size, and I'm going to increase the size of my logo to, I'll just do 1.8. I feel like that's gonna look pretty good. So now that I have my logo up at 1.8, I need to decide when I want it to go back down onto the car. And I'm going to keyframe frame 33 for this. So 1.8. So now what we have here is we have a logo small, big, stays big, and then slams back down onto the car. The reason it's growing a little bit here is, if you remember, our camera is pulling away from the car here just a little bit. And by doing so, the size of the logo changes. So now that we have our logo coming off the car and going back on the car, we can watch this out now. Now, I understand that that looks a whole lot different than that. Trust the process, we're going to get there. So now we're ready to add our little coin flip. So we have the logo growing, we need it to flip and go back on the car. So we're gonna come back into Fusion. Now, something you're going to want to remember is these frame points. Everything we do is going to have to do with these frame points. One quick thing you'll also want to do here is you're gonna wanna smooth these points out. That way it's not as jerky of a motion. So these points, if you're not familiar on your spline editor, are basically, that is your size of 1, our size of 1.8, our size of 1.8, and our size of 1. But they have hard edges, meaning that it transitions very sharply. If we go ahead and hit F, that's going to smooth those points out without going over our size. If we were to have it S, it would do a little arc here, you see, where the logo grows a little bit more above our maximum size, which I, for this effect, don't want. So we're gonna use F. So now we're ready to add our flip to the logo. With transform node selected, we're going to hold shift, press space, and look for DVE. Go ahead and add that. So we don't want the flip to happen until we've reached our full size. So what I'm going to do here is keyframe the Y rotation. And now if you get a little mixed up with your rotations, the Y rotation is going to do our side to side flip. You absolutely, if I set that back to 0, could flip it this way or that way as well. Anything works, but we're, for this effect, going to use our Y rotation. So what I'm looking for is for this to come out, flip here, and then before it slams back into the car, it'll stop rotating. So I am going to keyframe the Y once again. Now remember, here at 10, this is the same 10 as when our transform reached its biggest size. And now at 33, that's where our transform ended. We're gonna come over here and I'm going to set this to 360 degrees. So that's going to be technically 2 flips, and I'll show you why. Here, it's going to flip once and be a mirror image backwards, and then it will flip back. So 1 full flip, but it looks like 2. You can absolutely choose however many angles of rotation you want, but I do recommend that you end on every 360 degrees. That way the logo does make a full rotation around. If I were to do something odd like, I don't know, 270, you'll see it rotates, but then it doesn't actually come back around. And that's just not gonna work for our effect. So we're gonna want 360. So now let's take a look at this effect again. Sorry, a little lost here. Bring these down so they're a little easier to see. So we're getting there. It's not great, but we're getting there. Our logo comes off, flips around, and pops back on. So we're making progress to the effect, but you know, that is still not what we said we were going to do. So what's next? Time to add a little bit more flair to this effect. So we're gonna come back into Fusion, and now with nothing selected, we're gonna add 3 nodes. So pay attention here. We're gonna shift space. We're going to add a duplicate node. And if it does automatically connect to something, you just wanna hold shift and drag it off into space here. We're going to shift space and we're going to add a soft glow node. And then lastly, we're gonna add a merge node. You can do that by doing shift space and searching for merge, or it'll be hotkeyed here. Now, if you grab here and you drag up to our duplicate node, those 2 will connect off the DVE. Then we're going to connect our duplicate node to our soft glow, and we're going to hold shift and drag it over this line to connect our merge before merging our soft node, our soft glow to that merge. If your logo looks like this, don't worry. All you're gonna wanna do is turn your gain down a little ways and possibly turn your threshold up just to get the logo glowing to an acceptable amount. For now, we're not really going to worry about that because that's something we'll tweak right at the end once we get everything looking proper. For now, let's work on this duplicate node. So right here, this is going to do your number of copies. That's basically how many times your logo or this effect is being duplicated. And then your time offset is the delay. And to show you what I mean by that, you can see I now have 2. So I did a negative, I'll do a ton. You see I have 2 logos and they're both delayed from each other. Sometimes this is a really cool effect. You can do like a ton of copies and you can have this effect happen many, many times. But for our purpose, the reason that we have this, we're going to want 2 copies and we're going to want just a slight delay. And by doing so, let's see here, you can see our logo gains a little bit of a thickness. I'm only going to go literally -0.2 on this time offset and 2 copies. You don't want to do too many because it just starts to look a little bit too crazy. Now my computer is taking a little bit of time to catch up here, but I tend to like 2 copies, but you can absolutely play around with this part of the effect. One last thing I do want to point out, I'm going to turn off our selection for the transform node. This is our DVE node, and we're gonna actually smooth out this rotation effect as well. I'm using F again for that. So this is going to be a little bit of a smoother rotation. So now if we come and take a look at our logo, it pops off. The car flips around and you can see you just barely catch that it's a little bit thicker. Now, I am going to show you how to change really quick. It's been bothering me a little bit while I've been editing this video, but you can see the edges of my logo here are a little bit crusty, I guess you could say. I'm going to show you how to fix that. If I right click here and I go into open in timeline right here, I can now open this clip and I can view where I edited my mask. And all I'm going to do to band-aid this a little bit is up my softness just a little. And now I'm going to come back into the same project I was working on, and my edges have gotten a little bit better. Doing the same thing, I can also just change where my mask is at to affect this as well. And sometimes that helps out a little bit more. Okay, so now that's obviously not the end of the effect. We're not quite 100% there yet. We need to sell it. So what are we missing? Well, we don't have a shadow popping out of our logo when it comes off the car. So we don't really get a sense of depth or anything that the logo is coming off the car. So to fix that, we're gonna come back into our Fusion effect here, and we're gonna select our DVE1 node. We're gonna hit Shift Spacebar, and we're going to look for the drop shadow. Once that is selected, you may need to pop in and out of your editing tab here, just a little bit to make sure that we get everything lined up correctly. The main thing being, you want to take a note of where your light source is coming from to really make this effective. So I'm gonna have my shadow show up around over here, meaning that my light source would probably be shining down this way. So coming back into the Fusion tab, making sure my drop shadow is selected, I'm gonna change my drop distance. And this effect here is when my logo is as far off of the car as possible. So I'm gonna take a look. I think that's pretty good. That looks exactly where I would hope this to be. But right now, this effect's not edited, or not animated. It doesn't actually move when our logo grows. So how are we going to do that? Well, we need to remember our 2 points once again. For our transform. We're gonna select our drop shadow, and here at frame 10, this is where I set exactly where I want my logo to be. Making sure it looks good on the car once again, and now I'm gonna start my keyframe. So with drop shadow selected, I'm going to change the blur, and I'm going to change the drop distance. Sorry, not change, keyframe. I'm going to come over to frame 33, that is our other keyframe that we've been using. Keyframe blur and distance once again. Now when I come over to the final frame when this is going to smash into the car, I'm going to set my blur to 0, and you'll see why I do this. And I'm gonna set my distance to 0. That puts it directly under my logo. And the reason we do it is basically as the shadow is getting closer, or basically effect-wise, as our logo is getting closer and closer and closer to the car, these edges will become more and more defined, and that'll really give you the look that it is right next to the car and then getting far away. Because if you ever shine a light over something and check its shadow, the closer it gets to the object, the sharper these edges get. Now we're gonna do the same thing with our starting frame. Set our blur to 0 and set our drop distance to 0. And now you can see as this gets further away, our blur is going to get even more and more our blur effect on our shadow edges will get more and more blurry. I'm also going to select our drop shadow here, and once again select all these points and hit F just to smooth those out. One last thing, this is an optional move, but it will look good, is if you select your DVE and you select motion blur here and change the quality to 10. That'll give it a little bit of a whip feature when it spins around. Sorry, my computer's gonna have to load this one for a second. So it'll whip around a little bit with a bit of blur, really giving it that motion effect. Lastly, you can also add motion blur to your transform node. Now, this is something some people will want and something some people won't. You're just gonna have to play with it yourselves, figure out if that is something you like. Now give my computer a few moments to render this up. So now we are really close. Some would say we're there, but we have one more trick up our sleeves to really, really, really sell this effect. We're gonna wanna hop over to this Clips Fusion page. So really quick, I'm just going to disable that layer. Now this clip here is the one where we had our spot replacer. We're going to come over here into the Fusion tab and select our patch replacer, and we're going to hold Shift and press spacebar. Now we're going to look for lens blur. Why are we doing a lens blur? Well, we want to give the effect that as our logo is coming up, our eyes or our camera is focusing on the emblem coming out of the car, essentially making the car look like it's getting very far away. This is just going to add to the effect even more, because a typical camera, if something were to come toward it, either this would get blurry or what's behind it would get blurry as it focuses on this. So we're going to imitate that in this clip. Again, we need to remember our points here, our 2 frames. So that's 10 and 33 for my editing here. Here at 10, I'm going to keyframe the blur size, and same at 33. Now I'm gonna turn this blur size down to 3, just because I don't want this to be quite as strong of a blur, just to keep it looking realistic. And then at 0, we're gonna keyframe our blur size at, you guessed it, 0. And then at the final frame, 0 as well. So the effect that we get is that we have a sharp image, and as it gets further away, it gets blurry the whole time the logo's out of the car. And as the logo starts to move back onto the car, it sharpens back up quickly. We're going to once again select all of these and hit F just to smooth those splines out. So let's check out our effect now. Give my computer a moment to process. Perfect. So now we're looking really, really good. We come in, logo pops out, smashes back down. I am really quickly going to adjust the glow here. And now this also is something that you could keyframe if you wanted to. You could keyframe basically, let's see here. You could keyframe no glow, and then here you could have it glowing a ton again, and then have it keyframed at no glow when it goes back on the car. So it kind of glows as it comes off the car, which is also a really cool effect. And the reason, again, that I am taking so long to explain every single one of these effects to you guys is so that you guys have the freedom to do your own effects or change my effects around or make it look exactly how you want. Because not everybody does that. A lot of tutorials out there are click this button, click that button, click this button, click that button, and then cool, you have the effect and you did the thing, but you don't know how to change it or use a feature of it the next time you're editing something else. So I always do my best to, for trying not to make it boring, but to really, really let you guys know everything that you're doing. All right, I'm not quite done yet. We've got one more thing left to really, really sell this effect. We want to make it look like when this logo slams down, it is smashing into the car and pushing it away. So to do that, we're gonna add a bit of a camera shake. Now, I'm not asking you to buy any presets. I'm gonna show you how to make your own camera shake, which is going to be really helpful for many other effects that you do here in the future. We're gonna come to the Effects tab. We're gonna hit Search. I already had Search open, and look for an adjustment clip. We're gonna drag an adjustment clip down here. We're gonna right click it, and we're going to change our clip duration. Switch to frames, 15 frames. You can change it to 10. I will use anywhere from 10 to 15 typically. We're going to now come into the Fusion tab of this adjustment clip. Shift spacebar, and we're gonna look for a camera shake. Add our camera shake in here. Now we're going to keyframe our oops, sorry, don't do that quite yet. Make sure you're at the beginning of the adjustment clip, and we're going to keyframe our first 4 effects here. Now we're going to go all the way to the end of our clip, keyframe those 4 again, and we're going to set them all to 0. You can also go here to settings and you can add a motion blur. I always set motion blur quality to 10. You may or may not want the motion blur, just depending on how this ends up looking. Now, one last thing, you can see as it shakes this around, we are going to get a little bit of banding here on the side of the clip, and that's because it's physically moving this clip around. We're just gonna come over here to edges and switch from canvas to mirror. That's gonna fill those edges in with a mirrored image of the edge next to it, and it's just going to help sell this effect. Now, all you're gonna need to do is move this over. I like to do it starting right at the end of our clip here. And now if we play it all together, ooh, let it render for a second. And just like that, we have this effect finished up. It's a pretty rad effect, a little bit of a complicated one, but if you guys stuck around for the whole video, thank you so much. This one's really, really cool. I like this effect a lot. And it's not that complicated once you figure out what every feature is doing. And that's why, again, I try to explain as much as I can as I go. It does make these videos a little bit longer, which I hope is okay. I hope you guys don't get too bored watching me. But I hope that you have more of an understanding for how this effect works and how to do it in the future. Maybe if your parameters are just a little bit different and you need to tweak something, you're not just following along with a button clicking tutorial. So thank you guys so much for watching. Your support means so much. If there's any other effects from any of my shorts I've uploaded, anything you've seen on my Instagram, go ahead and let me know in the comments that you would like to see a video on how to do those effects, and I will absolutely find the time to make that video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.